What's that you're drinking?
Oh, this is France Kerr Weiss beer, alcohol free.
What?
Because I am trying to raise £1,000 for my pipe band by running 50 miles this month and going a month without alcohol. But I can still have alcohol free beer. It's a bit like looking at your sister. Might taste the same, but it's not right. Anyway, tonight I'm going to be cooking stovies. Now, there's many people who've got many ideas how to cook stovies, and I wouldn't like to say that people are wrong, but stovies made with corned beef are not stovies, they're corned beef hash. Stovies shouldn't really need gravy in it if you make it properly. I believe that stovies originated from a French dish, and it's literally stove potatoes, and it would have just been tatties, onions and some sort of beef fat or animal fat to cook in it. And people have started adding beef. Yeah, people add leftovers to them. People put sausages in them. I think that's Ouija's. Oh, I can sling a hook. It's as bad as corned beef fat. Anyway, what you need for it. It's not bad, that. Very simply, you need potatoes, onions, and beef. Now, the beef I'm using is back vein. I'm not going to use all of this. I just bought this size of beef from the butcher. Salt, pepper, and beef dripping. And that is it. So, first things first, put the beef to one side. I'm going to finish cutting the onions. So I've got 3 onions. Now, some of you have probably seen my channel a few times, some of you haven't seen it at all. So if you come in about, as you'll see, I've peeled the onion, but you keep the stalk in. Now, in this instance, it doesn't matter if I use the stalk. So carefully keep your fingers behind the blade. Don't put any pressure until you've started to cut through. Otherwise you could slip. Now, because I'm going to keep this, I'm going to cut it at an angle. And that's your stalk removed. And then fingers behind the blade, like so. Make sure you're in. And then add pressure. There we go. Get them together. I want nice big chunks of onions. And they're the first things that need to be cooked. So and then your tatties, you want them peeled and you want them cut into decent sized chunks. I will show you how to cut a tatty just in case you don't know. But you want to soak them to get rid of some of the starch. Anyway, I'm going to give my hands a quick wash. And I've got this pot on here in a relatively high heat. I'm going to take that off a wee second. And I'm going to add, probably easier just melting it direct from the block. So you want a good sort of 25 grams of beef dripping. 2 reasons for this. Main reason is you get the flavour from the beef dripping. The second reason is it's got a much higher smoke point. So I'm going to add these onions. And you want to cook these for a good while. And if you add the salt now, this should help stop them burning. I'm just using regular Kunsel salt. Give them a good stir. Make sure they get covered in that beef fat. Lid on. Probably want to cook them for a good, possibly even 20 minutes. You want them to reduce right down and they're going to be what gives you the colour as well as the browning of the beef. So get that, I'm going to tidy up and then come back and show you the tatties. Quite good, that's quite good. Right, so I had these soak in for a good 5-10 minutes. Right, cutting the tatty, I'm sure you know how to cut a tatty in the end. So you want to cut the tatty in half. So fingers either side and get your blade through. The blade on the board, right, then you've got that supported. So then you've got very little chance of cutting your fingers. And add pressure. Pull the knife out. Tatties can be bad for having your knife stick in, so when you're cutting through them, so always pull them out that way. Anyway, nice little forward motion. Forward motion. Forward motion. Fingers always behind the blades. That'll be a good soak. You can see there's quite a lot of steam coming out of the pan that the onions were in. So, quite a lot of moisture coming out of them, which is good. I'm starting to get a little bit of colour. They're turning translucent. And if I'm being honest, I could just sit and eat a plate of that. Onions cooked and beef dripping are really delicious. So I'll take it over there. And then we'll come back.
Well, that's a big beanie bastard.
It is, isn't it? Beef's quite big and veiny as well, is it? So before you prep your beef, you could do this beforehand. Probably would do this beforehand. As you can see, onions are starting to go brown. They're starting to catch at the bottom ever so slightly, which you want to happen because that's where you're going to get your colour. So, if you've got a gas stove, turn it down until you get a nice controlled kind of temperature. I'm going to put it from 4 down to 3, and I'm going to get my beef on the go. So I'm probably going to use half of this. Really decent, cheap cut of meat. If you want to be fussy, you can take this vein out of it, but because you're cooking it for stovies over a good period of time, you're just as well not. So I'm going to cut the beef into reasonably big chunks, the same size as the onions and the tatties. Get the beef all cut up. Now, it's quite tender, this beef. You can eat it without it being too chewy, raw. So we want to get a nice hot pan on. You just want to keep a good eye on these onions. You can see into the pan. Bottom of the pan is just starting to catch. Fine, it's all got to give you flavour. It's not burning yet. I really do just want to control this. So when you put your tatties in, the moisture from the tatties will lift that sort of caramel off the base of the pan. Fine. Get your pan on, you're going to fry this in batches if you don't have a big enough pan. I've probably got a big enough pan, so that's fine. But I'm going to drain my tatties first. You see the starch has come out. Give it a good wash. Remember to use all of your senses when you're cooking. Your nose, as well as your eyes and ears. Yeah. If you can smell that it's burning, there's a chance that it is. This is perfect. You see it? So it is dark at the bottom, but if you give it a good stir around, this is the colour that you're aiming for. And by doing so, you don't need to add any salts or blackjack, food colouring, things like that. Right. Just because I haven't eaten yet. This one's for all the vegans out there. So we'll do that another 5 minutes or so. Let that pan heat up, then we'll add the tatties, we'll brown the beef, and then we'll get on with the rest of it. So, once your frying pan's hot enough, and your onions have settled down a bit, see, they're taking on a better colour now. It's all flavour, and see the caramelization has come off from the bottom of the pan. Just need to persevere with it. So, lid back on, let it season your beef. Seasoning. Again, you could use oil here if you wanted to, but like I say, beef dripping's going to give it flavour. It's always spitting because I kept it in the freezer, so it doesn't go off too quick. Good job. Simple as giving it a good colour. Want this to be a really nice dark brown. Don't move it about. Once it's all spaced out, you're fine. Make sure it's got room to breathe, or you'll end up stewing it instead of browning it. And you leave that until you get a really nice colour on the one side, and you can give it a flip over and a stir and what have you. Just constantly keep an eye on these onions, it's very important. You know, you can turn them down, turn them up, whatever. But yeah, we'll come back once the beef's kind of cooked. Right, so, beef's got good colour in it. Now, there's a lot less liquid in there than I expected, so I'm not going to need to use the colander. Because all this juice is in here, I'm just going to put into there, and that will help with the onions stop sticking. That will be all the moisture you'll need. Tatties are 80-90% moisture, so you know you don't need to add water or anything like that. But yeah, important that you give them a good brown. I would suggest getting some good meat from your butcher. Now I've got cracked black pepper here. The reason I hadn't added to the onions yet is because I didn't want it to burn. But I do like a lot of black pepper in my stovies. These onions are looking perfect now. I'm just going to put this beef straight into there. Some of it on the floor, of course, just for shits and giggles. And I wouldn't normally do this, but just to clear out the pan. It's also easier to season your tatties. All spread out like that. It's fine. Put your tatties in. Come over here, Clyde. Put your tatties in. Get them through each other. Like that. It looks a bit dry at the moment. Now, if I was cooking this for supper tonight, I would either cover it and put it on the stove, a nice low heat, or a good suggestion actually is to put it in a medium oven, and that way the arse of the pan won't burn. You might get a little bit of crispy bits around the edge, but you're getting a nice even heat by casseroling it, braising. But I'm going to put it in the slow cooker. So this is literally how you make stovies. You don't add anything else. Time of attention. I'm going to put it in there on low overnight. I'll see you in the morning.
Echt?
It's probably better than normal stuff. Right, so forgot what we were doing because we started this last night, and I'm absolutely buggered because the two of us climbed on Monroe today. For those of you who are overseas watching, all of my fan, and Monroe is a mountain in Scotland over 3,000 feet high, which is 12 inches. It's 12 inches, isn't it? Anyway, so stovies went on in the slow cooker last night on low, and in the morning give them a quick stir, and we turned them off because they were almost cooked. We've since come home from our trek, we've put them on a high heat, and this is what they should look like. Dun, dun, dun. As you can see, with my hand in the road, it's nearly like mashed tatties with bits of beef through. Nice chunks of tatties. I've added no liquid into that whatsoever. As I explained earlier,
There's liquid in the tatties.
there's liquid in the tatties. So, a nice bowl of stovies. Enough. Cut. Oh. So I've dished up the stovies. I've put oatcakes and beetroot. Now the oatcakes look slightly different because Kate's are gluten free because she's got special needs. No, special needs. I don't know. She must have. She's with me. That's stovies, oatcakes, and beetroot. And if you want to be fancy, so you can put it on cooking with Corona. That's a bit of green shit on. It looks half a fancy. See if Ron likes that. Stovies, oatcakes, beetroot, alcohol-free beer. Done. Happy crappy cooking.